This is the Vendi Sales Podcast, hosted by Kyle Jager. Real conversations, sharp insights, and practical tools to help you close smarter and build teams that win.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Vendi Sales Podcast. Today, I'm super excited to have the sales legend, Jeff Bajorek, with us on today's episode. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Legend. I knew you were going to go there because we were chatting beforehand, and I told you that I'm always flattered when someone calls me that. I'm not sure I've totally earned the right to be known as a legend just yet, but I guess if someone else says it, then it's true, right? Or if more than one other person says it, then it's true. Thanks for having me. I know we connected a couple of weeks ago, and I saw you online, and I see you everywhere online, and I like what you're talking about. I like the work that you're doing, and you must be doing it right, and you must be doing it well because you keep popping up. So, we got to connect, and I enjoyed our conversation, and I'm glad we get to continue it.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's I have been following Jeff for, what's it been? 4 or 5 years, ever since Outbound Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
So that is, I feel like that's 5 years ago, maybe 6.
Well, let's see. I spoke in 2021 in the fall, and then again in 2022. And those are the two times. I think, I went as an attendee in 2019. And then the 2020 version I was invited to speak, and then it was postponed. And then in 2021, that's when we had it. In 2022, I went back. So,
So 5 years.
It has to have been. Yeah.
Amazing.
I hope you learned something.
You know what? That was, Outbound was the first time I found a conference that really hit me and stuck with me. It was just one of those, you're always trying to find a sales event or conference where it's just like, it's sales and it's nothing else. And a lot of them I was going to, right? It was like a lot of marketing speak and a lot of inbound, especially in the past 10 years, that's been really big. So when I went to Outbound for the first time, it was like, I felt at home right away. I've been ever since. And it was just like, no, this is where I belong. Like, this is the type of content I want to be consuming. I want to be learning. And it's like, I'm not sure about you. I think we were talking about last time. I get a ton of energy, just from going to events like that where I meet other people, network with great people. But I also get practical takeaways I can actually implement. So it's always a highlight of mine to be go to Outbound, connect with great people, and actually learn.
Yeah, it's always been a great conference. I know they scaled it back a little bit over the last couple of years. And, I think there are a lot of really good reasons for that, because in a lot of ways, the 2 years, the 3 years that I went, I mean, my best advice to people was to wear comfortable shoes, right? I mean, these are full days, and you're just, it's so much great information that for some people, I'll raise my hand here, it's tough to decide what to take and act on versus the next great thing that you hear that you need to act on that too. And so there can be a little bit of analysis paralysis there, but the energy is, it's beyond compare. You go in and you see speakers like Jeb and like Anthony and Victor Antonio, and I'm going to get in trouble for forgetting the rest of the roster that normally goes. Many of them are still friends of mine. But there's just so much good stuff there, and you're surrounded by people who want to be there. And so that energy is a real boost, because I would venture to say that you get almost as much, if not as much, value from the people you sit next to and experience it with than you would from the stage, right? The content is the content, but when you're rubbing elbows with people who are actually using it and putting their own spins on it, it starts to create a picture of what you could do with it as well. And it's a great event. Those guys do great stuff.
I think it's it's almost like sales 101, right? Just like we were just talking about earlier, the value of the podcast, it's in the network, right?
Yeah.
The ability to build relationships with people in similar or adjacent fields that, hey, down the road, it's going to bear fruit. And it's almost the same thing with the conference, right? Like sales is sales. We all know sales, and it's great to get reminders and freshen up on things and get kind of kicked in the rear end. Oh yeah, I better start doing that. But it's the shoulders you rub with and the connections you make and the people you meet, that tremendous value in that.
It's a people business, right? And I think, I was reading a post on LinkedIn earlier today about, the different eras we've seen in sales over the last 10 to 15 years at this point, right? And, for the people that you and I work with, it hasn't been as digitally enabled as for a lot of the people that we'll run into on LinkedIn who are selling sales tech and things like that. But I think, what you and I have done for a living, for our careers to this point, is work with people, is carry a full sales process from beginning to end. It's, put yourself in front of strangers all the way through, nurturing the relationships with your longtime customers. And, it's almost like Henry Ford meets SaaS, right? It's like, we're going to try to break this into its component parts and create an assembly line for a sales process. And it's something that has never quite sat well with me. I remember, gosh, years ago, it might be 15 years ago, actually, we refinanced my house, and we refinanced it with a mortgage company that said that they had engineered a process that was going to amaze us. And they closed our refi in like 17 days, which is really fast. It was really fast for 15 years ago. It's really nothing anymore, but it was really fast. And I think I talked to 6 different people throughout that process. And in a lot of ways, that's absolutely amazing. In some other ways, and this is how I feel about the way SaaS was broken down anyway, I felt like the largest purchase I had ever made was being handled quickly and without my complete understanding. And I did not have a single lifeline to call, right? And if at any point I just want to say, time out, hold on, there's a lot of commas on this document I'm going to have to sign again. Can you just help me understand what's going on? Instead of, no, just let us take care of it. So like 6 people that I'd never met, will never meet again, were handling something that was very important to me. And to them, it was very elementary. So I get why it would feel so simple, but at the same time, I had to just trust the system. And I mean, I did, because for crying out loud, it's my mortgage. What are you going to, they can't screw it up, right?
Yeah.
And it ended up working out really well. But I just, at the same time, I was like, wow, this was more uncomfortable than it needed to be. And oh, by the way, I didn't need it to happen in 17 days. If it could have taken 60 days, but it was a little more drawn out, that's fine. I wasn't in a hurry. It was just something I needed to do. Right. So, when you talk about how sales has broken up, sales has been broken up in some industries. I think we miss that in between stuff. We miss the relationship building. We miss the idea that I still believe this to this day, your best source of customers is coming from your current customers. And the opportunities to not only expand within that customer base, but also to leverage referrals and the networks of those customers, and the prolonged exposure of you to those people in terms of how long you work with them, the questions you continue to ask, the follow-up work that gets done. That's where so much of the cultivation and the fun and the really rewarding parts of what we do gets to shine through. And when you make it like an assembly line, you kind of wreck it in some ways. I understand it leads to more subscriptions. It leads to more customers. Like there's another way that it's still successful for companies from the dollars and cents standpoint. And you're helping more people if you put yourself in front of more strangers. So that works too. It's not that you can't call that system a fraud. You can't call that system a failure. But I guess it just depends on what you're looking for. And not every company is trying to hyperscale.
Yeah, that's so true, right? I think a lot of people, for some reason, I'm not even sure why it is. Like, why does everyone look to SaaS as the model, right? Like, it just seems to be like if you research sales, you look at the sales, like everything's based on the SaaS model, right? Like the books, the content. I don't even know why that is, because like I've said, I don't really work with SaaS companies because, I want boots on the ground and real products and all that kind of thing. But it's whenever you talk to someone, it's like go to market strategy, or we got to build this thing, scale this thing. It's like, well, everything I look at, it's, that assembly line approach. That's what we have to do. It just kind of gets me thinking, like, why is that?
I think there's a couple reasons. Predictable revenue is a good thing. That's the name of the book, written years ago. And a friend of mine is a co-author on that book. That predictability is important. And when you look at corporate America, and I don't know if it's probably similar in Canada, like the idea that I have a pretty good understanding of what's coming down the pipe, that's a good thing. In our own businesses, we look at full pipelines and we say, okay, I can sleep tonight. You look at an empty pipeline, you start thinking, man, what do I need to do? Right? So there's a sense of peace that comes along with that. And, to mechanize or make an assembly line out of the process, there is some good logic to that. Not going to knock it. So the desire for that is a true one. And now with the advent of all the technology, and now with AI to create our own technology in some regards, I'm coding my own dashboards and things. It's kind of wild. But, for us to have tools that can make what used to be impossible possible, now all of a sudden we have ideas to lend to that safety, that feeling of security. So that's another reason. I think the biggest reason, though, is where do salespeople go to learn? They go to LinkedIn, usually. Now, more and more it's YouTube, a little bit out there on Instagram. TikTok is another one. That's fine. Social media platforms everywhere. But for the most part, LinkedIn is a professional network for professionals who are trying to network, connect, and learn something. Well, who's on LinkedIn? People who are in front of their computers all day. Who are the salespeople in front of their computers all day? The ones selling software. So I think there's an inherent bias, and the echo chamber continues to get louder. And I think this is something I lean on a pretty regular basis. A friend of mine reminded us all, geez, this is a couple of years ago now, but he said, Jeff, he was talking to me in a comment. He said, Jeff, you got to remember that 90+% of salespeople do not sell software. So even though there are millions of salespeople, tech salespeople, great sellers, great people, in this platform, and they all tend to be gravitating around this concept of software as a service, there's still a fraction of the salespeople that are out there, like you said, boots on the ground, physical products, rolling up their sleeves and doing good work with other people who want to roll up their sleeves and do good work. Clients of mine, in the past year or so, I've worked with horticultural tool and supply companies. I've worked with food service companies. I've worked with wastewater treatment companies. They're all there. I've worked with hotel chains. I've worked with Hallmark. I've worked with, all kinds of these companies that we forget about because they don't sell software. But everywhere you go and everywhere you look, Kyle, everything you see has been sold at least twice. And we got to remember that all that stuff is out there, and all of those people are out there working hard.
No, it gets you thinking, right? Like if these boots on the ground salespeople, people like you and me who are trying to build pipelines, it's like you said, I think a lot of the other echo chamber is like it's all new business, right? Like, and I preach new business a lot. Like, we got to get new business. But what you said previously is so true, right? Like, it's like your best source of growth is your existing customers, whether it's growing existing wallet share with them, or if it's like using them for referrals or connections or networking. And like we were just on this call, and before this call, right? And you're like, hey, like, just got another referral. It feels awesome. And it's going to make the sales process a lot easier because you got that trust, that credibility already. I'm curious though, like especially as being, you've been a individual contributor, you've owned your own business. What have you found to be the best ways to actually go get referrals? Are you asking for them? Do they happen naturally just through great service? Is it a bit of both? Like, what does that look like for Jeff?
It's a mix. I think the most certain way to increase the number of referrals you get is to start asking for them. There's a stat that I continue to go back to by Dale Carnegie that says 91% of sellers, the Dale Carnegie stat says that 91% of customers would be willing to provide a referral if asked, but only 11% of salespeople are willing to ask. So if you want to increase your referrals, start asking. I get a fair amount of referrals by just providing great service, doing great work, being someone who appears to have some expertise that might be able to help beyond the engagement. So sometimes that leads to referrals inside the organization. Sometimes it leads to referrals to other organizations. And, I will tell you that sometimes it feels like I get those often enough that I don't need to ask. It's a very simple pattern for a seller to be lulled into. But the truth of the matter is that most sellers are just afraid to ask. And a lot of the work that I do and some of the stuff that I have out there, it's free. Go get it. The frameworks to have this conversation are pretty simple. I think getting over the fear of asking is the biggest hurdle to sellers, really getting more referrals. And I think that fear comes from a lack of belief. I think that fear comes from sellers feeling like they don't want to ask for another thing. And it's like, and then again, going back to this pervasive thought that, well, if I really earned it, then I wouldn't need to ask. Garbage. It's garbage. It's just, look, know that you provided great value. Know that, hey, even if you feel like, first of all, if you feel like you were paid more than you should have to provide that value, then there's another problem. That's where we have to work. But like, you provided value. Now it's generous for you to offer to provide more. It's generous for you to say, hey, if you liked this, do you know someone else who might? And there's really no reason to be afraid of it. But it requires you to get vulnerable. It requires you to ask a question that you might hear no. And you don't want to wreck a good thing because you just finished this engagement or you're halfway through this project or whatever it is. But I've got a framework that I've shared publicly, but I call it 5 great questions for killer customer conversations. And the questions have 4 main benefits that I can go through after after I list these questions. But there are 4 major benefits to asking these 5 questions. The first question is, why did you buy from us the first time? Very surface level question. You're going to get a surface level answer, right? Well, we liked your service. Kyle, you're handsome and you got a great social media following and we seem to like what you're saying. So we invited you in and you sold us. So great. We decided to go with you. Okay. Well, can you please be more specific? Because buy from me because I'm handsome and I say good things is not going to get it done with most people, right? So can you help me? And here's the key. This is that vulnerability part. You got to let your guard down so they can let theirs down. So Kyle, here's the thing. We've been working together for 10 years. Our relationship is so sound. I feel like you can speak candidly with me. I can speak candidly with you. And if I'm really being humble with you, I'll tell you that I've learned a whole lot more from you than I feel like I've taught you. And those are the kind of relationships I would love to have more of. I think they would allow me to help more people in ways that they need to be helped. If you could help me narrowing down and maybe being a little more specific about the things that you see that I do differently than people out there that I compete with, that you find are extremely valuable, it would help me to help you as well as some other people. Well, now I've let my guard down. The floodgates are open. My guess is, my assumption, my prediction is that you're going to hear something you weren't expecting to hear. You're going to get the real reasons they chose you. The third question is, why do you keep buying from us? And this is a very critical question, because the reasons they keep buying from you are often a little bit different than the reasons they bought from you the first time. Listen here. What are you going to learn? You're going to learn the things you need to keep doing. You're going to learn the things you need to do more of. You're going to learn the things that you can stop doing. So listen to what they say as well as what they don't say. Now, before we go any further, I got 2 questions left to set you up with. But before we go any further, there are a couple huge benefits of having this conversation. One, you're having a vulnerable conversation with a good relationship. That means the relationship's getting better. There's never been a relationship that didn't get better when you have these kind of discussions. 2, you got very distinct, explicit, customer-centric language from the customer that you can use to find more like them. So the marketing implications here are ridiculous. And the specificity of the kind of problems you can solve for people are just, it's invaluable. A third thing, and this is really important, you just learned a lot about what you should do more of, what you should do less of, and what you should keep doing, right? How invaluable is that when you have to manage the entire relationship? So those 3 questions give you 3 huge benefits if you're just willing to get vulnerable. Questions 4 and 5. Hey, Kyle, do you know anybody else who might appreciate that same kind of value? And might you be willing to introduce us? 4 and 5 go together, right? And so what's the 4th benefit? The referrals. So in those first 3 questions, we've created a perfect environment for you to ask those next 2. I don't know what else to say. Like at that point, it's a conversation worth having regardless of the referral. You might as well just ask for the referral.
Yeah, that's I hope everyone let's pause for a second. Ken, where can people find that resource? Can they find it? Do they got to take notes, rewind the podcast, write it down? Because that's an amazing framework.
I will create something. It's on the website under resources, but I will, we'll put that in as jeffbajorek.com 5 questions.
Perfect.
And then I'll create it.
And we'll link it in LinkedIn and YouTube and Apple and Spotify, everywhere where you're finding this podcast, because that's an incredible, simple framework. You know what the best part about sales and everything is? It's simple. Like
if you're doing it right, yeah.
That framework you just walked through was simple. You got to go do it though. Right. Like everything. You just got to go do it. It's what I'm always preaching people. Just like, you want more referrals? Use that framework. It's simple. Do it consistently. Do that consistently. You will get more referrals, guaranteed. I love that. But the switch there for me is you got to let down your guard and get vulnerable with people.
Yeah.
Which can be really hard for some people to do. Have you ever coached someone or seen someone where it's like you've been able to help make that switch? Like for people that really struggle to be like, hey, you know what? Like I hear it all the time. I'm always telling people I've never had the eloquence of coaching someone through asking through referrals through that framework. So that was invaluable for me too. But I'm always telling people, hey, go ask for referrals. You deserve it. You've done great work. You've added value. You have the right to ask. And they're just like, I'm not comfortable. Like, I don't think that's right. I don't want to ask for that. I think it's like, I haven't earned it. Like, I don't want to get vulnerable with people. Like how do we help people get there?
It's tough to do that. Not that it can't be done, but it's tough to do that because it requires, taking one hat off and putting the other hat on. A lot of times, not always, but a lot of times. And what I mean by that is you got to take sales coach hat off and you got to put life coach hat on, because you're right. It's a simple framework. You can read those questions from a script if you wanted to. It's not that I have asked a question that anybody would have a problem, saying those words. But I don't feel comfortable about that. Yeah, I know it's simple. It's right there. But I don't feel comfortable So then it's, well, okay, well, why do you feel uncomfortable about this? Well, now we're getting into so many things. We're treading on those issues that lead to a lack of belief. We're talking about self-confidence issues. We're talking about maybe bad experiences, not asking those questions or having those conversations, but we're bringing up a lot of stuff. And I'm not a licensed psychotherapist. I'm not educated or well enough versed in those kinds of conversations, to really get that out of people. If there's something I do well, I think it's create a psychologically safe space where I feel like we can have those conversations, but you still can only take that person so far, right? They can only come to you with so many things. And, it's one of those things that you and I were talking about earlier, the cost of inaction for not asking for those referrals just doesn't seem to be that big of a deal to people. I can tell you it's the lowest hanging fruit for opportunity creation. It's either asking for referrals within the organization or just digging around and looking for more projects you can do in the same organization, or asking for referrals outside the org. I don't know why you would want to pick up the phone instead of doing that and call strangers, right? It's like, okay, choose your hard. Do you want to get vulnerable, which is hard, or do you want to pound your head into the wall because, prospecting rates are in the low single digit connection percentages, right? I mean, it's fine. You can do either one. But, it's almost like, people fear public speaking more than they fear death. Yeah, it doesn't make sense either. So it's hard to do because it involves a part of the human psyche that I'm certainly not trained well enough to understand.
Join the club. I think one of the things I've noticed is a lot of people seem to think they can't have the belief in their product or solution that they should have, right? It's like I go in somewhere and it's like Mark Hunter talks about it, right? It's like, I think I'm actually doing you a disservice if we don't have a conversation, because that's how much I think I can help your organization, right? Like, I'm actually being rude or mean to you if I don't come talk to you about what I can do for your organization, right? Like, I just have that belief in what Vendi does. Like, I believe it. I know it to be true.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people internally have that belief in their product, but they almost feel like they can't have that belief when talking to other people, right? It's like, I can't believe that much in my product. Like, that's wrong. It's just like, no, that's true. And that's good.
It's not wrong. It's the point. I don't know if you've seen this recently, Kyle. I've gotten a couple of LinkedIn connection requests and messages for people who are clearly trying to sell me something, but also clearly trying not to sell me something. And there was one just a couple of weeks ago. I actually responded and said, what am I supposed to do with this message? What would you like me to do here? Right. And I leaned in. Look, I'm pretty skeptical about the people I connect with. I can tell when a pitch is coming. Sometimes I'm just open to it. So go ahead and pitch me. Right. And do it thoughtfully, do it, tactfully, right? Don't just lay it on me, but I'm not real picky about the rules. Like you had a reason for reaching out. What's that reason? How do you think you can help? Ask to help me. And they didn't even respond to that. I got them the response that their automation was looking for, right? And they didn't even respond to it. And I think there is this feeling out there, and we've heard it said so many times too, well, you shouldn't feel like you're selling when you're selling. What? What that underscores is a lack of integrity with how that rep is even approaching their prospect. It's yeah, I'm selling you because I feel like I'm doing you a disservice if I don't. I'm, quote, selling you, but maybe you don't recognize that because I do it differently. I sell you by offering you differentiated value from anything else you're going to find in the marketplace. I'm selling you by maybe recognizing something that you might be missing in your business. And so I'm just going to ask, hey, is this something you're concerned with? Because a lot of people are approaching it in what I think is the wrong way with good intentions. I've got a couple of points, some ideas that I can share with you that might change your thinking. And hey, whether or not we work together, probably worth the price of a cup of coffee. Can we chat? Just here to point something out. If you're good, if this isn't an issue for you, fine, I'm gone. Glad to be connected. I'm out of here. Circle back in a couple months with another question about another problem you might be experiencing, right? I mean, that's what good salesmanship, good sellership is. But the idea that if we feel like we're selling something, then that is the feeling we want to avoid misses the point. I get the play on words about how it's always been done and we don't want to do it like that anymore. Okay, great. Let's be better. But make no mistake. If I pick up the phone to call a stranger, I'm trying to sell them something. And if I can get that straight in my head, then at least we're starting in the right place. But if I'm trying to talk myself out of doing the very thing that I am trying to do, how are we not screwed from the start?
We are. That's the simple answer. No, it's so funny. I got some feedback. I had a discovery sales call the other week, and I got some feedback from a third party, and they said, yeah, they said it was a really great call. Like, you asked a lot of questions. You were just really seeking to learn about their situation and what pains they had and all that kind of stuff. But that was me selling, right? Like, in my head, I wasn't like, hey, I'm not selling here. I was 100% in sales mode. I'm going to sell this project. But my process for doing that is, I got to learn about you and what you want and how you want to get to where you're going and all these good things. Doesn't mean I'm not selling, right? Like, in my head, I'm like, this is a sales call. Like, giddy up, let's go. And that whole segment of like, we can't be selling is terrible.
There's a difference between selling and pitching. And the first call is probably not the time to pitch. If I get invited to, okay, yeah, pitch me. Okay, well, it gets back to sell me this pen, right? Here, sell me this pen. I don't know. Do you even need a pen? Can we start first? Like, if you have 10 pens in your pocket right now, you don't need this pen.
No.
If you have 10 pens in your pocket right now, I'm actually more curious why you have 10. Why do you need so many? Because if you're afraid you're going to lose this pen, I'd just rather not sell it to you, right? It's too expensive for you to lose in the next 10 minutes. Again, can we learn a little bit about what it is that we do? Because if there's anything that has happened as this profession has grown over the last few decades, is that we have more ways to help more people, which requires us to learn the context in which we can help them. I can't make those assumptions. Otherwise, I'm going to look like a fool. So I'm going to ask you a few things. Let's see if we're even. Do you even have something that we can work on together? If you don't have anything to work on together, let's just finish the cup of coffee and talk about sports, or let's talk about the springtime, or let's talk about our kids, or let's talk about what we're excited about in life. Let's do anything other than have a business conversation if there's no problem to solve. Or for that matter, let's have a business conversation. Hey, if you've solved these problems, sounds like you got a lot of things figured out, Kyle. What are you most excited about for the future of your business in the next 2 quarters? Right? That's a fun conversation to have. We can learn something there. But this idea that, I don't know, just confusing pitching and selling is problematic. And there's so much good marketing out there that plays on those words. We have to remind ourselves what we're actually trying to do at any time.
I think this might actually be a good segue because kind of mentioned, hey, working on what good looks like here.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a lot of that project of you working on is like, yeah, what does good sales look like? Like, it's not that sleazy, slimy sales feeling. It's probably the complete opposite. It's that hopeful, helpful type of selling where we feel great and want to do it every day.
And yes, but here's where I'll catch you. In some places, it is that sleazy way of selling, right? Like, And I don't think there's anything really wrong with that. I don't prefer it, but like, let's take the stereotypical used car sales guy with the bad coat, suit jacket, the mustard stain on his tie. Like, I get it. That guy's trying to make a sale right now because once you walk off this lot, you're never coming back. So the way he feeds his family is by selling you a car. I'm not doing anything to stand up for his morals, but what I am telling you is the reality of that situation is that he needs you to drive off that lot, not walk off of it. So he's going to resort to exactly what he needs to do that. Those are the rules of the game as he has set them up. Okay? I'll forgive him that. I don't prefer it, but I'll give him that. In most companies that want repeat business, they need to act differently. They need to act with a different level of integrity. And when we build a long-term relationship with somebody, even a medium-term relationship with somebody, we need them to realize, to feel, to appreciate that this is someone I can trust. This is someone I can count on. This is someone like I know what's going to happen. When Kyle says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. And he delivers for me every time. And so there's an integrity there that needs to be felt. And that's when I think it's really valuable to look at that integrity. And the way that I, talk about and have really the process for selling in that integrity is what I call sell like you. And selling like you as an individual means you have the integrity between what you sell, who you sell it to, how you sell it, and why. So as a rep, it's really important to have that integrity. As an organization, I use a similar framework called the 7 steps to sell like you to help codify what they do so that they can act in organizational integrity. And so that first step is know yourself. The second is know your best customers. Step 3 is know your process. Step 4 is know your methods. Step 5 is know your rules. Step 6 is be held accountable. And step 7 is keep your swagger. It's that mindset. That's that belief, right? Well, I think most companies don't do enough investigation in steps 1 and 2, know yourself and know your best customers. And that is really where we define what good looks like here. Here are the things our top performers do well. Like so well, it's really something that it's the reason that they're top performers. They're doing things differently than the rest of the organization. Step 2 is validating those best practices, if you will, with your best customers. Are we doing the right things for the right people, or is there a disconnect there? A lot of times there are, or a lot of times there is. And so those 5 questions, that's actually the validation part of this exercise, right? So 1, it's a great way to ask for referrals. Well, 2, don't forget the first 3 benefits, right? Why did they buy from us? In their words, what do we need to keep doing? And when we understand what we do well and we can align that with what our best customers want from us, it makes it so much easier to find more customers like them. And so, that integrity, that what good looks like here is going to be different in every organization. It should be. Knowing yourself is the key to being able to grow upon that and expand upon.
You said something that surprised me was more often than not, there is a disconnect between knowing yourself and why customers buy from us or what they expect from us. Break that down. Like, why is that? What does it stem from? Like, what are the common trends you see there?
I have never worked with a company that didn't tell me that their biggest differentiator in the marketplace was great relationships, industry knowledge, and truly caring about their customers' outcomes. Every once in a while, I'll work with a company that has a clear technical differentiator. We've got this technology. We've got this product. We've got patents on our stuff. That's great. But realistically, most companies don't have that, right? And even when those companies do have that technology, they say, but where we really specialize is our relationships because we've been doing this a real long time and our customers get great results. I'm like, yeah, okay. You and everybody else say that, which mean they're not differentiators. So what does a good relationship look like? How is a good relationship formed? Can you give me an example of a good relationship? Can you give me an example of things that you have seen? And Bob, your last 25 years with this firm, what are you doing that the reps who joined on but couldn't stick around more than a year and a half, what weren't they doing? And you know what? Bob can rarely ever tell me because so much of what we do as salespeople, it feels intuitive to us. We take it for granted. It's an unconscious competence, right? It's a blind spot for us. That's natural. There's nothing wrong with that. But until we take the time to dig in and really try to excavate what's underneath that competence, we can't document it. We can't make it repeatable. We can't make it trainable. And who wants to do that, Kyle? Like literally, who wants to do that? That's like pulling teeth. I'd rather call 100 strangers than get into the nitty gritty and the semantics of that conversation, right? It's just awkward. You got to get vulnerable again. You got to admit that you might not want, you got to admit that you might say something you didn't want to say, or you might realize something that you'd never realized before. It's easier to just say, yeah, but I got this. Let me go do it, right? So the organization, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, how do you deconstruct that? How do you dig deeper? If people are listening and they're like, hey, like, I'm curious on why I do what I do and why it works. Like, are there questions we can be asking ourselves or roads we can go down that might lead some light on that?
On the surface, it's, what do you say your differentiator is? What does that mean to you? And, can you give me an example of it? And then the ultimate test, the litmus test is, okay, if you were to give this to somebody who was starting in their role right now, brand new, green, would they know what to do with it? It's almost like, you and I create, on a regular basis, and we're told that we need to write at an 8th grade level. Can you explain what you do to someone who doesn't have your tenure of your career, your amount of education, right? Like really getting simple. It's hard to do. And I think the big key is, and the reason, and I don't lock people in the room, but I sit in the room and say, here's what we're trying to figure out, guys. This is why it's important. And ultimately, the tricky part is that's usually more important to the organization than it is to the reps. Because the reps know what they're doing. They do it just fine. They want to go out and keep doing it. The organization, it's important, or it's important for the organization so that when Sarah walks out the door for a promotion after 20 years, you have a way of hopefully distilling the things that made Sarah so awesome at her job and training the replacement. Or when you decide that you get either it's a fresh injection of capital or you've got expansion plans, or, hey, you know what, a private equity firm, combined you and another company together, and now we have resources and we're going to try to pour rocket fuel on this machine here. Like, what are the standards that we know will work fastest? What are the standards that we can coach to? What are the standards that we can onboard to so that we can turn a 6-month onboarding period into a 3-month onboarding period? So it's usually more important to the company than it is to the reps. And so there's a little bit of a disconnect there. But once you can achieve those things, opportunity creation gets easier, forecasting gets easier, profit margin goes up because you know why you're good and you know who that's important to. So you hold a little more discipline before you discount to get the deal done. Right? Your onboarding becomes less of a cost center and more of a profit center fast. And let's not talk about how much risk there is in Bob and Sarah moving on to greener pastures, whether it's retirement or not, because I think up to 40% of their book of business, depending on the industry you're in, is at risk. And maybe they won't walk with them, but I've seen it where, oh, I heard that rep was leaving, and while I didn't want to see him go, I was actually looking forward to the opportunity to try some of the competitor stuff because I'm so loyal to Kyle that I won't. But if Kyle's not here, well, man, my business is going elsewhere. Oh, I've seen some big customers where I've come from have those kinds of conversations where the rep is the reason that they're loyal to the company. So I don't know if I fully answered your question there, Kyle.
Yeah,
I
no.
mentioned a lot of things and kind of went on my own tangent there, but the value of doing this is really understanding very explicitly so that you know exactly what to do more of and what you can do less of.
No, I love that. Also, resources on that on your website as well.
Yeah, actually, I created something just for the listeners of your podcast so that just to make it easy for them to go to it. I've got an assessment that I've created. It's called Know Why You Win. And you can just go to jeffbajorek.com/Vendi and it'll pop you right there. It's 14 multiple choice questions, probably 4 minutes, 5 minutes maybe to get this done. And it'll start to help you understand, do you know what your best performers do? And do you know why your best customers buy? And then just give you a different way to look at this, and totally free.
I love that. It's applicable, say, hey, your top performers. There's many organizations out there where, hey, maybe they only got 1 or 2 performers altogether. They don't even know who their top performer is because it's a small company. Still invaluable to know why you're winning, right? Whether it's so I encourage everyone listening, hey, go take that assessment because whether you're big or small, there's going to be good insight there. Awesome. Well, Jeff, we've run pretty lengthy show already, so I appreciate it. The insight is awesome. The conversation is great. Where can people find out more about you? Follow along, get more wisdom from you.
Best place to follow me is LinkedIn, and my website's just my name, jeffbajorek.com. We've got some good stuff there. A lot of resources that are free for you to download if you want. I've got, and I put a lot of stuff up on LinkedIn. And I mean, quite frankly, if you have a question, send me a DM on LinkedIn, you're going to get an answer. I still answer all my own stuff. I don't have anybody running this thing for me. So, if there's a way that I can help, ask the question. It helps. I always learn when I answer those questions anyway.
Awesome. I love that. What's kind of your primary realm of working with companies these days? Where do you kind of find your fuel and your joy?
Oh, I've been saying this for a few years. I like to roll up my sleeves and do good work with people who like to roll up their sleeves and do good work. So I really like physical products. I really like boots on the ground field sales teams, particularly managing the tension between account maintenance and, good account management, and also still going and finding new accounts. It's a very difficult tug of war there between selling, between sales and operations. But I found a way to work out a pretty good system for myself when I was in the field, and my clients seem to like it too. So, but that's it. I've worked with teams in just about every industry that you can think of. So there's something that's applicable for them, but there's nothing quite like getting in the car with a rep and making calls. And so I know you do a lot of that too. So I like doing that.
Amen to that. I think that's why we connect so well, because we get a lot of joy from the same things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing better than boots on the ground, getting dirty, rolling up your sleeve, and working alongside salespeople. Amen to that. Jeff, thank you for joining this podcast. I appreciate it a lot. I know our listeners are going to as well. So until next time, everyone, remember, sales leaders, get in the trenches, go sell with your team, and we'll talk next time. Cheers.
Thanks, Kyle.